Hello, friends. This is Bobby Autry with stories and tall tales from my back porch rocking chair. Thanks for coming by, where everybody is always welcome to pick up a cold glass of iced tea. Sit yourself in one of these back porch rocking chairs. Let's sit a spell while we reminisce about those long gone times when we were growing up in the late 50s and early 60s. Truly a different time and place for sure. In this episode, I want to do a little different. I'm going to go back and tell you about some things that happened back in those summer days of late July and starting into the hot month of August. Now back then, school was out for the summer from early June, and we didn't go back until after Labor Day. Not like now when kids have to give up a whole month of summer early and go back to school. Yuck, in my opinion. Time goes too quickly, and once you grow up and get a job, you no longer will get a summer vacation from classes the rest of your life. So let's let kids be kids and enjoy that little bit of extra time just being kids. Sorry, I'll get off my soapbox and settle back down into this rocking chair. You got your tea? You ready? So as I was about to say, back when my brother Buddy and I were growing up, we attended a school that wasn't listed in any town directory. It didn't have classrooms, report cards, or homework. It was simply called the School of Hard Knocks. Every day was recess. Every mistake became a lesson. And sometimes the tuition was paid in skin, knees, bumps on the head, or a sore backside. This week, I'd like to tell you about a few of the classes Buddy and I attended out in the real world. One of the classes we took was physics. Let me tell you about it. Across the street from our house on Burney Street in Marietta, Georgia, was a big old playground. Every boy and girl in the neighborhood would gather there, and our favorite challenge this particular summer was seeing who could swing the highest. Now, the ultimate dream and the challenge was to make the swing go completely over the top bar. Now, you could do that with nobody on it. You could sit there and swing that thing, throw it, make it go higher and higher, and eventually you could make it go round, round, round. That was a lot of fun. Then you had to undo it. But the competition, Buddy and I turned it into a contest. You see, we would stand up and pump. You know how you start swinging and you put your knees down and you stand back up and you put your knees down and you stand back up, back and forth, higher, while all the neighborhood kids just cheered for one of us and booed the other. Well, this went on and goodness, we could go high. Boy, there we'd go. Pump. We pumped with everything we had until suddenly I was up. I could get so high, and I was standing up in the swing, and I could look down, and I could see the ground with my feet straight up in the air, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna do it. Oh, and then it would fall back down. Not quite enough power to make that arch and go all the way around. My swing would stop and I fell straight down. Now, Buddy, again, stronger than me, a little bit shorter than me, but boy, could he pump. And we were back and forth, almost neck and neck and doing this. And I just knew I was going to beat him. Of course, that was the thing. I always needed to beat Buddy, but Buddy always needed to beat me. and all the kids would take sides, and they were yelling. And there we went. And like I said, I made it to the top. No motion, no direction, just standing on my head on top of the bar with the swing, and physics took over. What goes up, yep, must come down. And I fell and came out of the swing, went rolling across the grass, skinning up my elbows, my back, dirt all over my head, laying on the ground. But I couldn't take my eyes off of Buddy. He was almost doing the same thing, and he was right at the top of the arch. Oh, no. Buddy had just enough momentum to make it a full circle. And as he came down the other side, still swinging, still standing up here, yeah, as he came over the top. But when he came down, well, he slowed on the next rotation, and he came back down again without going around, and he come flying off that swing, rolling across the playground with a knot on his forehead. Oh, but yep, the crowd declared Buddy the winner, complete with a brand new crown on his head. Well, I guess you could say he passed the physics class. Actually, at the top of his class in the School of Hard Knots. That's K-N-O-T-S, knots. And he learned something very important that day. He learned that winning sometimes hurts. Yep, that's what he did. Well, there was more than just one class in the School of Hard Knocks. We also had what was known as animal science. Now, back in our day, lots of open areas, and summer meant exploring creeks and woods and lakes and looking for anything that crawled or hopped or slithered. Buddy and I filled an aquarium with some tadpoles. Now, we didn't have Google. We barely opened the encyclopedia. We wanted to learn and see something. We just simply watched. So we put them tadpoles in an aquarium, put some dirt in there, caught some flies. Didn't know if tadpoles ate flies. We knew frogs did. But we put them in there, and we'd kind of watch. Every day we'd watch, see what happened. And you know, little by little, them tadpoles started growing little legs. And we kept watching day after day. What's happened today? And all of a sudden, their tails disappeared. Yeah, and the mouth on them got wider. And boy, I tell you, it was something. It just seemed like it was just a blink of an eye before the eyes was able to look in that aquarium and saw that them tadpoles had become frogs. Yep, frogs hopping around in the aquarium instead of swimming. Oh, man, that was something to watch. Kids today don't understand. Now, you may have something like that in some of the old science classes in school these days, or biology or whatever. Of course, in biology, we took and we dissected them, but that's a whole nother story. I know it took longer than it seemed, and it sure don't seem as long as I did cheat today, folks. I did look it up on Google. And Google says, guess since Google wasn't around back then, the tadpoles just did their thing, and wham, before you knew it, they turned into true jumping frogs. But to be sure, you get some facts while in the rocking chair. You are rocking, aren't you? Here's what Google says about their transformation. For them to hatch into tadpoles, from the eggs, it takes about 1 to 3 weeks, and they hatch into small tadpoles that breathe with external gills and eat algae. Yuck. Can you imagine eating algae? About like eating spinach. Leg growth, when we had them in the aquarium and kind of watched them move around, well, according to Google, it takes 6 to 9 weeks. The back legs sprout first, followed later by the front legs as lungs begin to form inside. It didn't seem like that long back then. And what they call in Google a froglet. Can you imagine a froglet? I know about a piglet, but a froglet? They say the froglet phase, 10 to 13 weeks from the start to then. The body shapes change, the mouth widens, and the tail begins to shrink. Well, we got to watch it getting up every morning just looking in the aquarium. And then the final change, which they say normally about week 14. The other one was 10 to 13. This is week 14 to 16, somewhere in there from the beginning. The tail disappears completely. The lungs fully take over, and the young frog leaves the water and starts hopping around. So when that happened, we had a bunch of frogs in an aquarium, and we'd take the aquarium back out to the creek, and we'd turn it upside down and watch them frogs just take off through the creek and up on the banks and all. And we thought we were just helping nature out, because we were, after all, part of the school of hard knocks. We didn't even know how to keep track of time back then. We just checked from day to day until they changed. And the same thing was true when we would catch us a bunch of caterpillars. You ever caught a caterpillar? You ever had a caterpillar walk, crawl up your arm? We used to take them caterpillars and we'd sneak up to the girls and put one on their shoulder. And all of a sudden he'd crawl up on their neck. Oh, wait, I better not talk about that. We had another set of aquariums that we would put sticks and twigs and limb branches off of a couple of trees. Then we would put them caterpillars in there, and we would watch them. And they would run up and down the limbs and branches. Oh, and they'd chomp down on the leaves, chew them up. You ever seen leaves on a tree that all got all kind of chunks out of them? That's what them caterpillars done have been eating. And they wander all over the aquarium until they found what they considered the right spot. Then we got to watch them as they spun them cocoon and waited, and they'd get them cocoons just all the way up their body. And man, can you imagine from the inside looking up, and they take that thing and they close it up into the darkness. Well, we would get up, not only would we look at tadpoles, we'd look at them cocoons. And one morning, I remember getting up and looking over there, and I saw one of the cocoons just had a crack in it. And I went and got Buddy, come look. And we went over there and we started looking, and all of a sudden a little leg come out, and you could see it just kind of twitching around. And then, strangest thing, looked like there was a mouth just kind of biting on the cocoon and opening it up. And as we watched, a butterfly slowly started emerging with its wings back. Ooh, coming out of that cocoon, struggling. You see its little legs. Now, side note, we even tried helping one once before. And we learned a lesson from that one too. We learned it had to do its own struggle on its own, or its wings wouldn't become strong enough to fly. So you leave them alone and you just watch them. Okay. As I mentioned, as I sit here in this rocking chair, and I see you smiling. As we sit here in this rocking chair, we're in the year 2026, so we can just ask Google. Hey, Google, how long does it take a caterpillar to turn into a butterfly? Poof, there's the answer. Caterpillar phase of that thing lasts about 2 weeks of eating and growing before becoming a pupa. What's a pupa? A pupa phase. Why can't they just say cocoon stage? Anyway, it lasts 7 to 14 days, not weeks, for most common species of caterpillar / butterfly. Now, the total time for the entire process, from a tiny egg till it turns into the caterpillar and it crawls around eating leaves and finally gets tired of eating leaves and forms the pupa, the cocoon, stays in there and turns into a butterfly. Takes about 4 to 5 weeks. Nah, like I say, probably somewhere around there. Looking back, it doesn't matter. That may have been one of life's strangest lessons. You know, sometimes God allows us to struggle because He is preparing us to soar like Superman. All you got to do is put a towel on your back and start jumping off the roof or out of a tree. Well, Superman did better than that because he could leap tall buildings with a single bound, run faster than a locomotive. Oh, go back on. We'll get back to the School of Hard Knocks. Our class on critters didn't end there. Buddy and I would go hunting all through the woods. Morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime. We'd sneak out at night with our flashlights, our Flash Gordon flashlights, and find all kinds of wildlife. Bugs, creepy crawlers, beetles, and other creatures that go in the night. That gave us the bright idea of how to make some money off of these scary, creepy, slimy, furry, icky things we collected. Built our own backyard zoo, complete with snakes, rabbits, crawfish, lizards, bugs, and anything else we could catch. We put them all in little cages or aquariums or boxes and all these different things, and we'd find flies or different things to feed them. And we even set up a little stage and put some chairs and had some areas out in front of it so we could charge the neighborhood kids a nickel or a dime to come see our collection. Now, Buddy was always the brave one, or maybe just a little bit more foolish than me. He even learned how to milk a venom from the poisonous snakes that we had, while I stayed with the harmless black snakes and garden snakes. Buddy would reach in one of the jars of the small boxes we would use for the shows, and he would pull out a snake. I mean the real deal, a poisonous snake. Back up in North Georgia, we had things that was like what they call timber rattlesnakes. Had a little rattle on the end of them. You start to reach in there and get them, they'd rattle that thing. The kids would go, oh, don't touch it, don't touch it. Well, that didn't keep Buddy from touching it. Maybe it was a copperhead. And we even had a cottonmouth. Anybody ever heard of cottonmouth? With wide, yucky-looking fangs. Buddy would reach in there and take the snake, and he'd walk over to a table with a glass on it. And he would swing the snake around at the girls or the kids in the audience and make a show of it. And then he would take it and put its mouth up to the glass, pull it down on the rim of the glass with the fangs out, and venom would squirt or flow out of the fangs into the glass. The girls would scream, ah! The boys would flinch and shiver, and Buddy would become the Bernie Street Snake Boy. Now, I stayed on the other side of the stage and just did the talking, building up the drama and the dang, so we could get more money for the next show. Because you see, those little shows earn enough money for candy bars, popcorn, and even some Saturday morning movie trips. Not bad for two boys who simply loved God's creation. And I guess, looking at the clock, we've got time for one more story. And this is an important lesson from that there School of Hard Knocks. Like any good school, you need to learn a trade. Well, also back in the late 50s and early 60s, the housing business was starting to boom. New subdivisions were going up everywhere. Building houses meant places that curious little boys could get in trouble. We would go and find scrap lumber. Down on the ground there'd be some nails. Some of them would crooked and we had to take a hammer and straighten them out. And even some half-used paint cans and some brushes. Something no boy could resist playing with. And we would get the stuff and go over to our little area and build us a clubhouse up in the tree. Yeah, with all kinds of stuff, different sizes and all. Didn't look real good, but it was ours. Something no boy could resist. So it was not unusual for me and Buddy to come home at the end of a day with paint on our pants, or maybe it was our shirts. Could be on our shoes. Never knew. And both Mom and Dad would get mad. Not sure why. And it reached the point that Daddy got tired of hearing Mom fuss at us. And she would spank our rears and have us have to clean up the clothes so we'd have something to wear. There wasn't no store that we'd just go to and just buy new clothes all the time. We couldn't do that. No, sir, it just didn't happen back then. So Daddy got tired of hearing Mama fuss at us. Day after day, we'd come home with all this paint on us. So finally, he put his foot down. And he came in and he told me and Buddy, he said, "Listen to me, boys. Let me tell you, the next time you come home with paint on you, I'm going to paint you the color you have on." Well, the warning didn't stop us from going back to the new houses, and it did not stop us from getting paint on us. And as the street lights came on and we headed home, we never gave a second thought about the paint. But that changed pretty quick. Once we came into the house, Daddy was waiting, and he caught Buddy with one hand and me with the other. "Okay, boys, inspection time." Of course, both of us said, "Daddy, we didn't get any paint on us today." We were hoping he would take our word for it and just let us go. No. He said, "Stand still." And he looked over us. And of course, there it was, paint. There was some green paint on Buddy. And as he looked up and down me, there was brown paint on me. And Dad was mad. And he told us, "Boys, you get in that room, you strip down to your underwear." While he went to the garage and he looked around. He found the cans of green paint. "No, that's not green, that's blue. Oh, here's some brown paint." And he got a big brush. Couldn't find any green paint. And he came back in the house. And by then, we had stripped down and scared to death. His dad took us to the bathroom. And he opened the brown paint and he dipped the brush in. And he said, "Bobby, come here." I turned around and he started painting my back and legs brown. Of course, I was crying, "Daddy, don't do that. Daddy, don't do that." Saying, "It's not fair. Buddy's the one that put the paint on me." Buddy simply said, "Ain't nobody gonna paint me," and he headed back to the bedroom. I was still crying. Daddy was still mad. Mom's getting concerned. Oh, Daddy starts painting there, some on my legs and my back and my arms. He told me to turn around, put some on my chest. Buddy was already dressed back up, and he was out of the door. And he ran out and started looking in the window. Now, Mom was saying, Charles, you need to stop. That's enough. Well, he kept on painting. Mom was louder now and said, Charles, stop painting Bobby. That's enough. Dad turned and looked at Mom. He knew she was getting concerned and she was getting to the point she might paint him. I continued crying. Buddy was outside looking in the window, and both Mom and Dad looked at each other. Then they looked at their almost all brown baby boy and started laughing. As they laughed, I kind of sobbed. And then I started laughing, and Dad said, Bobby Ray, I hope you learned a lesson. And I said, yes, sir. That's for sure, Dad. If we ever get paint on us again, I'm going to be sure it's not a color you have in the garage. Everybody laughed. I got a very light hug from both Mom and Dad, and they said, okay, son, you've learned about putting paint on. Guess what? Now you need to learn about getting it off. And Dad handed me a can of turpentine and a rag. And he was right. He was right. It was harder and it burned. And it was no fun to get off that paint. It sure was a lot harder to get it off than put it on. Lesson learned. By the way, Buddy came back in, and his only punishment was he had to help get the paint off of me. Now, I would call that no fair. Lesson learned. Well, almost. We still came home with some paint on us. Didn't get painted again, but we sure did get spanked. Folks, that's enough class for this week from the School of Hard Knocks. Next week, we'll head back for a few more lessons because Buddy and I were always finding new ways to learn, usually the hard way. It's been fun reaching back into that old memory bank. A little slow and dusty, but hey, those stories do have a way of making it back to the front and hopefully becomes a story. So we'll back it down and cool off the brain for this week. Don't want to overwork it. But let me say thank you for rocking with me for a little while. Hope the sweet tea was cold, the rocking was easy, and the stories enlightening. May God bless you, keep you safe, and remind you that some of life's greatest lessons are learned just by living them. If you go out around this way next week, hey, I hope you'll stop back by. Pull that old rocking chair back up, sit a spell, enjoy the view, the breeze, and some more ice-cold sweet tea. And a few more memories from the 60s and 70s. For now, this is Bobby Autry, here on Betz Creek in Savannah, Georgia, where there's always room for one more. Be blessed by the best. God bless you.